The sky above Haven 7 glowed faintly with the approach of alien ships, their engines humming like distant storms. Lyra Vance crouched by the window, watching the sleek, angular vessels descend with quiet menace. She had faced danger countless times, yet she could not recall ever feeling this curious instead of fearful. Beside her, Jonah moved with calm precision, as if the fleet's arrival was just another part of the day. "You don't seem scared," Lyra said quietly, more to herself than to him. Jonah glanced at her with a small smile. "Fear doesn't help. Panicking makes mistakes. Calm focus, that helps." "You'll see," Lyra frowned. "Focus, calm?" In her experience, fear sharpened reflexes. But observing Jonah, she realized he was more prepared than most when unafraid. There was a strange logic to his composure, a confidence built on knowledge, not recklessness. Jonah gestured to a small table in the corner. "Sit, eat. Fuel keeps the mind sharp." He offered a plate of simple food, fresh bread, roasted vegetables, and a warm stew. Lyra hesitated. She had learned never to trust anyone, especially humans offering gifts. Yet something in Jonah's tone, steady and honest, made her reach for the plate. The taste was surprising. Simple, wholesome, satisfying. She chewed thoughtfully. This planet, this human, seemed to live differently. Humans often relied on ingenuity, not intimidation. They prepared for challenges with planning, not fear. Lyra glanced at Jonah again. "You seem unafraid of them. Why?" Jonah leaned back in his chair, eyes calm. "Because we do not act from fear. We act from reason, courage, and necessity. The hunters expect panic, and that is what makes them confident. But if you act differently with clarity, their confidence falters." Lyra's brow furrowed. "Confidence alone won't stop weapons or ships." "No," Jonah agreed. "But confidence plus strategy, plus clever thinking, that can." He tapped a console lightly. "Watch." Small drones rose from hidden launchers around the property, silent and swift. They hovered, scanning, projecting light patterns that could confuse sensors, simple yet effective. Lyra's eyes widened. She had seen similar defense systems on massive ships, but the scale here was small, human, and clever. It was improvisation that relied on brains over firepower. "You think like a human," Lyra said, almost without realizing it, "always finding ways around danger rather than charging straight into it." Jonah shrugged. "It's better than charging straight into danger." His smile was calm, almost amused. "You'll see what I mean soon." The hum of alien engines grew louder. Lyra stood and moved closer to the window. In the distance, sleek black ships hovered, scanning the planet. The hunters had arrived expecting fear, expecting panic, expecting humans to flee. Jonah placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "Don't worry. They may be fast, they may be strong, but they're predictable. Humans are not." Lyra studied him. His calm was almost infectious. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe in a way of surviving that was different from her own. In her life, survival meant hiding, running, fighting alone. Here it meant preparation, courage, and working together. One of the hunters' ships moved closer. Sensors flickered on Jonah's console. He studied them, then nodded. "They're probing for life signs. They will try to intimidate." "Wait and watch." Lyra's instincts screamed to move, to vanish, to strike before they could strike. Yet she found herself standing beside Jonah, quiet, observing. She noticed how humans used misdirection. Lights, sensors, small drones creating illusions, confusing the hunters' scanners. It was subtle, clever, and effective. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt distorted as the first wave of aliens circled the settlement. They expected humans to panic, to flee, or to hide. They found calm precision in planning instead, "You see?" Jonah said softly. "They can't read us because we do not behave as expected. Fear is predictable. Courage is not." Lyra nodded slowly. She realized something profound. Humans were not just fearless, they were unpredictably intelligent, using strategy, adaptation, and teamwork to survive. It was not mere physical strength, but mental strength that made them formidable. As night fell, the settlement's lights flickered, casting long shadows over the forest. Lyra wandered briefly outside, studying the area. She saw small devices hidden in trees, simple traps designed to warn or slow intruders. She watched humans moving calmly yet swiftly, checking sensors, communicating silently. "They are organized," Lyra murmured to herself, but not in a rigid way. Flexible, clever. Jonah approached, placing a hand on her shoulder again. "That's right. Predictable actions are easy to exploit. Humans act with reason and courage, so we are hard to predict. Lyra looked at him, trying to measure his honesty. After all her life, she had trusted no one. Yet here, every action, every word, every calm movement made sense. Humans relied not on fear or violence alone. They relied on mind, strategy, and bravery. A soft hum reached them, the sound of one of the hunters' ships scanning the area. Lyra froze, but Jonah remained calm. He gestured to a small screen, showing the alien ship attempting to map life forms on the ground. The human sensors and drones created illusions, giving false readings, confusing the hunters. "You are really clever," Lyra said, half in admiration, half in disbelief. "I have never seen humans do this." "Always fighting with brains instead of weapons," Jonah chuckled. "We fight with brains because weapons alone are not enough. Courage alone is not enough. You need both, and a willingness to do what others would never dare." Lyra's mind turned over his words. She had spent her life running, evading, fighting. She had relied on fear as a weapon against those who might capture her. But here she realized there was another way. Strategy backed by courage, not fear. Hours passed. The alien ship circled, scanned, and then gradually began to retreat, frustrated by the humans' clever misdirection. Lyra had expected a desperate, chaotic battle. Instead, she saw calm efficiency, confidence, and clever planning win without needless risk. When the last alien ship disappeared over the horizon, Lyra exhaled, a slow, deep breath. She had expected to feel relief, but instead she felt awe. This human, Jonah and his people, had faced advanced hunters and survived without panic or recklessness. Jonah turned to her. "See, they expected fear? They did not get it. That is why humans survive. That is why humans endure." Lyra's mind raced. She had always thought survival meant hiding, running, and striking when necessary. But humans taught her a different truth. They survived through courage, cleverness, and trust in one another. And in that truth, she saw a new possibility. She did not have to face the galaxy alone anymore. She looked at Jonah, his calm expression unwavering. For the first time, she felt something she had long forgotten. Curiosity about what it meant to belong, to trust, to fight without fear. Jonah gestured toward the simple, cozy home. "Come rest. There is much to discuss and even more to learn. You are safe here for now." Lyra hesitated. Then slowly she stepped inside, letting the door close behind her. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to feel welcome rather than threatened. She sat by the fire, staring at the flames, reflecting on the night's events. The alien hunters had expected a frightened fugitive, ready to flee or fight in desperation. They had found humans who acted boldly, unpredictably, and with clear minds. And she had found herself wondering, could she change? Could she learn from these humans, from their courage and cleverness? Jonah handed her a small, warm blanket. "It is safe to rest," he said softly. "The night is ours for now." Lyra accepted it, wrapping herself in the comfort it offered. The room was quiet except for the faint crackle of the fire. Outside, the forest whispered, and the stars glittered above Haven 7. For the first time in years, Lyra allowed herself to breathe fully, without constant vigilance, without immediate fear. The humans had not only survived, they had taught her that survival could be more than just running and hiding. It could be courage, cleverness, and calm determination. And as she drifted into a light, cautious sleep, Lyra knew one thing clearly. The world she had entered was unlike any she had known, and the human who had opened his door was unlike any she had ever met. For the first time, she felt something she had long thought impossible: hope. The night sky above Haven 7 was alive with motion. Alien ships glided silently through the dark, their lights sharp and calculating, scanning for life and movement below. Lyra Vance crouched beside the window of Jonah's home, her body tense but her mind racing with curiosity rather than fear. She had faced danger countless times, but tonight felt different. Here she was not alone. Here, humans were in control, and the confidence in Jonah's calm presence was contagious. "They're coming closer," Lyra whispered. She could see the ships scanning, their sensors searching for life forms. "They'll find us soon," Jonah nodded, his expression steady. "Let them come. They expect fear. They will not get it." Lyra studied him, trying to understand. The human she had known in her life had either fled, fought recklessly, or surrendered. This one human, stood firm and prepared. It was not arrogance. It was calculated courage. Jonah moved to a small control panel in the corner. Lights blinked as he activated defensive systems across the property. Small drones hovered silently, projecting decoy life readings and creating false sensor data to confuse the aliens. Lyra watched in amazement. It was simple yet brilliant. The humans did not fight with brute force alone. They used strategy, intelligence, and deception, tools she had relied on herself for years, but never seen applied so calmly in the face of overwhelming danger. "They're faster than us," Lyra said softly, "and more heavily armed. How can you think you'll stop them?" Jonah smiled faintly. "Stop them? Maybe not. Outsmart them? Yes, they rely on expectation. They think we will fear them, react predictably. We do not. That is our strength." Lyra felt a flicker of respect and something she had long denied herself. Admiration. She had spent years trusting only herself, yet she was beginning to see the power of humans' courage and ingenuity. Outside, the first alien scout ships descended, scanning the settlement with cold, calculated precision. Their sensors were designed to detect the slightest hint of life or energy. Lyra's heart pounded, but not from fear. She observed, learning, analyzing the humans' approach. Jonah moved quietly, placing small devices along the property perimeter. Lights flickered, creating illusions of movement. Small automated drones rose into the air, silent and swift, confusing the alien sensors. Lyra's eyes widened. She had faced advanced hunters before, but never with such subtle, clever defense. "They're clever," she murmured, almost to herself. "Fools expect only weapons. These humans use minds." Jonah glanced at her. "Brains over brawn. Courage over panic. You'll understand soon." The alien ships advanced, scanning more aggressively. One of the larger ships hovered near the tree line, releasing a scanning beam. Lyra felt a tense excitement. She had expected chaos, but instead she saw order, precision, and cleverness. The humans did not panic. They adapted. They acted with purpose. One of the scout drones encountered a sensor field and paused. The false readings caused it to miscalculate the terrain, delaying its approach. Jonah gestured calmly. "See? They cannot anticipate what we do because we act without fear." Lyra's mind raced. She had spent years evading hunters alone, relying on speed, stealth, and occasional deception. But here, humans combined all these skills with teamwork and creativity. They were not just survivors. They were a force that could outthink anyone. The alien ship released a smaller attack drone, a sleek black craft designed for fast strikes. Lyra instinctively moved to react, but Jonah stopped her gently. "Wait," he whispered. "Let them learn the first lesson. Fear is predictable. Courage is not." The drone approached the property expecting a frantic defense. Instead, it encountered automated decoys and hidden traps. Lights flashed, sensors misread its position, and it became disoriented. Jonah moved calmly, guiding it into a harmless capture net. Lyra watched astonished. She had never seen humans confront danger with such calm precision. "They expect us to panic," Jonah said quietly, "and we don't. That is the difference." Hours passed as the alien fleet circled, probing the settlement with precision. Lyra could feel the tension, but it was not panic. It was anticipation, curiosity, and respect. She realized humans did not fear death in the same way. They feared failure without reason, but they met danger with clarity and purpose. Finally, the main fleet descended closer. Large ships hovered in formation, scanning the area. Lyra felt her pulse quicken, but not from fear. She saw humans moving strategically, placing decoys, activating drones, and communicating silently. Every movement was calculated, deliberate, and fearless. "They will try to force us into a fight," Jonah said. "But we do not need to. We use our minds first, our courage second, and our strength only if necessary." Lyra's eyes widened. She had always thought of courage as reckless bravery, often fueled by desperation, but these humans demonstrated a different kind of courage, calm, confident, and strategic. They did not charge blindly. They planned, adapted, and acted with precision. As the alien ships hovered, one vessel fired a warning shot, a bright pulse of energy streaking across the sky. Lyra instinctively ducked, but Jonah remained calm, moving a hand across the console. The energy pulse passed harmlessly over their sensors, deflected by the decoy systems. "They expect fear." Jonah said softly. They do not see strategy in calmness. Lyra's mind turned over his words. She had spent her life running, hiding, and fighting alone. She had relied on fear as a weapon against those who might capture her. Here, she realized, there was another way: courage, intelligence, and teamwork could turn even overwhelming odds into advantage. A sudden alarm on the console indicated a scouting drone had detected a real life form moving near the tree line. Lyra's heart raced. She had expected to have to act alone to fight or flee, but Jonah moved swiftly, calmly. He guided the humans to intercept the threat with non-lethal means. Traps and nets designed to capture, not kill. Lyra's pulse quickened, not with fear but with admiration. Humans did not merely survive, they controlled situations. They anticipated, adapted, and acted boldly. When the captured drone was examined, the humans discovered its programming. It had been sent to intimidate and map life signs. By remaining calm and using clever tactics, the humans had turned a potential threat into a learning opportunity. Lyra realized something profound. Humans' greatest strength was not their weapons, not their speed, not their numbers, but their minds and their courage. They met fear with composure, danger with strategy, and threat with ingenuity. As the night stretched on, the alien fleet eventually retreated, frustrated by the humans' unpredictability. Lyra exhaled a slow, deliberate breath. She had expected chaos, panic, and desperate fighting. Instead, she had witnessed controlled, deliberate courage that confounded even the most advanced hunters. Jonah turned to her, his expression calm and confident. They expected fear. They did not get it. That is why humans survive. That is why humans endure. Lyra nodded slowly, her mind racing. She had always thought survival meant running, hiding, and striking when necessary. But humans, these humans, showed her a different truth. They survived through courage, cleverness, and unity. And in that truth, she saw a new possibility. She did not have to face the galaxy alone anymore. Jonah gestured toward the simple, cozy home. Come, rest. There is much to discuss and even more to learn. You are safe here for now. Lyra hesitated, then slowly stepped inside, letting the door close behind her. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel welcome rather than threatened. As she settled by the fire, she reflected on the night's events. The alien hunters had expected a frightened fugitive, ready to flee or fight in desperation. They had found humans who acted boldly, unpredictably, and with clear minds, and she had found herself wondering, could she change? Could she learn from these humans, from their courage and cleverness? Jonah handed her a cup of warm liquid. You did well tonight, he said softly. Not because you fought, but because you watched, learned, and understood. That is the first step toward true courage. Lyra sipped the drink, feeling warmth spread through her. She had spent years trusting no one, fearing everything. Yet here she was learning something new. Fearlessness could be learned, and courage could be shared. And as the first light of dawn touched the forests of Haven 7, Lyra realized something important. She had faced her first confrontation not with panic or desperation, but with observation, curiosity, and growing respect for human strength. For the first time in her life, Lyra Vance felt hope, courage, and the possibility of something more than mere survival. The first light of dawn spilled across Haven 7, painting the forests and settlements in shades of gold and green. Lyra Vance stood at the edge of the village, watching the humans go about their morning routines. Children laughed as they ran through open fields. Farmers tended their crops and traders moved calmly along cobbled streets. It was a scene of simple life, yet beneath it flowed a quiet strength that Lyra could not ignore. She had survived countless hunts, evaded the galaxy's deadliest mercenaries, and faced fear in every form, but she had never seen resilience and courage expressed in such a peaceful way. Jonah approached her quietly, carrying a small basket of supplies for the day. You're awake early, he said with a gentle smile. Sleep well? Lyra nodded slowly. I did. But I am thinking about what I saw last night. Jonah gestured toward the horizon. And what did you see? Humans, she said. Not just strong, not just clever, but calm, brave, fearless in ways I cannot explain. I've been hunted all my life, yet I feel safe here. Jonah's eyes glinted with understanding. That is because courage is more than fighting or hiding. It is also trust, compassion, and understanding. Humans are not fearless because we are invincible. We are fearless because we choose to face what comes together. Lyra frowned thoughtfully. She had spent decades alone, relying on herself. Trust was dangerous. Compassion was a weakness. Yet observing humans, she realized that their strength did not come from denying emotion. It came from embracing it wisely. You mean, even when danger is near, humans can still act with reason? Lyra asked. Jonah nodded. Exactly. Courage without thought is reckless. Thought without courage is useless. Together they create power few can match. Lyra absorbed his words as she followed Jonah through the settlement. The humans moved with quiet confidence, helping one another, sharing tasks and solving problems calmly. It was unlike anything she had experienced. In her life, even small mistakes could mean death. Here, mistakes were faced, corrected, and learned from, not punished harshly. As they walked, Jonah pointed out defensive structures and systems the humans had built. Some were obvious: drones, sensors, and communication networks. Others were subtle: traps, decoys, and strategies to mislead intruders. Lyra's mind raced with admiration. She had survived by her wits, but she had never seen a community apply intelligence so broadly and effectively. They don't just fight for themselves, Lyra murmured. They protect everyone. Even strangers, Jonah smiled. That is what makes humans different. We do not act out of fear alone. We act out of responsibility, unity, and hope. Lyra's gaze shifted to the horizon, where the remnants of the alien fleet had retreated. Their ships had been strong, fast, and advanced, but against humans their strength was limited. Humans did not rely solely on weapons or fear. They relied on creativity, unpredictability, and the ability to inspire one another. She realized how much she had misunderstood the galaxy. She had always thought survival meant hiding, striking, and avoiding connection. Here she saw that survival could be something more, something noble. Jonah led her to a small training ground. Humans of various ages practiced tactical movements, simulations, and defensive exercises. Each person moved with focus, coordination, and calm determination. Lyra watched as a young girl redirected a drone, another boy anticipated the movement of a mechanical opponent, and adults coordinated strategies seamlessly. They learn from experience, Jonah explained. They learn from each other. Courage is taught, refined, and strengthened by community. Lyra's mind flashed back to years of running alone, facing danger without allies. She had relied on fear, speed, and trickery. But these humans, even the children, possessed a strength that came from something deeper than survival instincts. It was understanding, adaptability, and collective resolve. You are telling me, Lyra said slowly, that humans are stronger than they appear, not just physically but in mind and spirit. Jonah nodded. And that is why we survive, and why sometimes even those who are hunted may find safety and purpose among us. Lyra's chest tightened. For the first time in decades, she considered the possibility of trust. Could she, a fugitive hunted across the galaxy, find a place among humans? Could she learn courage that was not driven by fear but by choice? The day passed with quiet lessons. Jonah introduced her to other members of the settlement, each radiating calm strength and a quiet confidence that fascinated Lyra. They shared knowledge, offered guidance, and treated her not as a threat, but as someone worthy of respect. You have been through much, an older human said gently, and yet you are here. That shows something about you too. You have courage enough to keep moving, to survive, and to learn. Lyra considered the words. Perhaps courage was not just a solitary act. Perhaps it was shared, nurtured, and refined in the presence of others. Even as the sun climbed higher, there was tension in the air. Jonah explained that the alien fleet might return, now frustrated by their failed attempts. But the humans did not react with panic. Instead, they prepared calmly, using strategy, improvisation, and unity. Lyra watched them work, amazed by their efficiency. Small teams moved through the settlement, setting up decoys, checking sensors, and coordinating communications. Every action was deliberate, precise, and unflinchingly confident. They are extraordinary, Lyra murmured to Jonah. Even in the face of danger, they act as if fear does not exist. Jonah smiled faintly. Fear exists, we feel it, but we do not allow it to control us. That is the difference. Courage is choice, not absence of fear. Lyra reflected on that as the afternoon wore on. She had always relied on fear as a tool, sharp, immediate, and often necessary, but she began to understand that humans had a different kind of power. The power to act wisely even when fear is present, to choose courage instead of panic, to inspire others rather than intimidate them. As evening approached, Jonah led her to a high vantage point overlooking the settlement. The sky glowed orange and purple as the sun dipped toward the horizon. Lyra could see the subtle defenses of the community, drones, sensors, and hidden mechanisms. Yet they were not weapons of aggression. They were tools of protection and ingenuity. "You see," Jonah said softly, "this is what humans offer. Clarity in chaos, courage in danger, and creativity where others see only threat. We do not rely on fear to survive, we rely on wisdom, unity, and hope." Lyra's eyes lingered on the horizon. For the first time, she considered her life differently. She had run across worlds, feared enemies, and relied on her cunning to survive. Yet here she saw that survival could be noble, strategic, and shared. "You are teaching me more than survival," she admitted quietly. "You are teaching me courage without fear, strength without hatred, hope without certainty." Jonah placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "That is the way humans endure. That is what gives us power beyond our numbers, beyond our weapons. Even the galaxy's fiercest hunters cannot predict a mind guided by courage, reason, and unity." Lyra absorbed his words as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. She had never thought of hope as a tool, yet she realized it could guide action, inspire resolve, and shape destiny. Humans did not wait for luck or fortune. They acted with purpose, clarity, and fearlessness. As night fell fully, the settlement quieted, though the threat of the alien fleet lingered. Lyra found herself seated near Jonah, observing the calm, composed humans around her. For the first time, she felt connected, not isolated. She understood that courage could be learned, strengthened, and shared. She realized that humans' strength came not only from their minds and skills, but also from their hearts, their sense of responsibility, and their willingness to act together. She took a slow, deep breath. The lesson was clear. The galaxy might hunt, threaten, and challenge humans, but humans endured because they chose courage over fear, strategy over panic, and unity over isolation. Lyra knew the coming days would test her again. The alien fleet might return more determined than before, but for the first time she did not feel helpless. She had seen humans stand unafraid, adapt cleverly, and act boldly. She had begun to understand that courage was not an instinct, it was a choice. And as she watched the first stars glitter above Haven 7, Lyra Vance made a silent vow. She would learn from these humans, fight alongside them, and embrace a courage that was more than survival. It was life lived boldly without fear. The sky above Haven 7 burned with light as the alien fleet returned. Sleek black ships sliced through the atmosphere, engines humming with deadly intent. Lyra Vance stood beside Jonah on the high ridge overlooking the settlement, her pulse steady. She had witnessed humans face fear and danger with calm, clever strategy. Now she would see how they acted when the threat was at its greatest. "They're back," Jonah said calmly, scanning the horizon. "And this time they will expect panic. That is why we must not give them what they want." Lyra nodded. Her life had been spent running, hiding, fighting alone. But now she was part of something bigger. She could feel the power of unity, courage, and intelligence that humans wielded. This was not just survival. It was strength in its purest form. The first wave of alien ships descended toward the settlement, scanning for life signs and weak points. Their sensors sought fear, desperation, and chaos. They found none. Humans moved with precision, calm, and confidence. Every drone, every decoy, every hidden device was activated seamlessly. Lyra watched as a small drone intercepted a scanning beam, diverting it harmlessly into the forest. Another set of devices projected false heat signatures, confusing the alien sensors. "They rely on expectation," Jonah said quietly, "and we give them nothing predictable." Lyra's mind raced. She had seen clever tactics before, but never with such calm coordination. Humans did not simply react. They anticipated, adapted, and turned the enemy's logic against them. A squadron of alien ships targeted a small outlying area of the settlement. Lyra instinctively wanted to run, but Jonah placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Stay, watch, learn. This is how courage wins." From the ridge, she could see humans moving like a single organism. Teams of defenders coordinated movements, guiding the alien ships into traps, decoys, and sensor fields. Rockets fired, not recklessly but strategically. herding enemy drones into nets and immobilizing devices. Lyra realized the humans were not fighting blindly. They were thinking several steps ahead, outsmarting a far more advanced force. One of the larger alien vessels fired a concentrated energy beam at the settlement. The humans had anticipated this. Energy shields rose, redirecting the beam harmlessly into the sky. Decoy sensors projected false readings, causing the alien ships to misfire repeatedly. Lyra felt a thrill of awe. She had survived countless hunts but never seen courage applied with such precision, intelligence, and teamwork. "They cannot predict us," Jonah said softly. "And that is why we endure." Lyra's eyes swept across the field. Children, adults, and elders worked together, each performing their role with skill and calm determination. It was not brute strength that repelled the fleet, it was strategy, ingenuity, and the fearlessness of those who refused to panic. A smaller attack drone broke through a decoy line, heading straight for a group of humans. Lyra's instincts screamed to act, and she did. Drawing from years of experience as a fugitive, she moved swiftly, intercepting the drone and redirecting it toward a trap. Jonah's eyes met hers, approving but calm. "See courage guided by intelligence. That is what wins battles." Lyra nodded, a strange warmth spreading in her chest. She had always thought fear sharpened reflexes, but now she saw that courage, clarity, and teamwork could achieve far more than fear alone. The alien fleet adapted, sending more ships and increasing aggression. But humans remained calm. They did not panic, flee, or act recklessly. They used deception, misdirection, and clever traps, forcing the enemy to expend energy and resources while gaining nothing. Lyra watched as the fleet's formations began to break down, confusion spreading among their ranks. "They are stronger than I imagined," Lyra said quietly to Jonah. "Even against a superior force, they do not falter." Jonah smiled. Strength is not always in numbers or weapons. Sometimes it is in courage, intelligence, and unity. That is what makes humans formidable. Hours passed as the battle continued. The alien ships, frustrated by the humans' unpredictability and clever tactics, began to retreat. Lyra felt a surge of awe and respect. She had never witnessed such controlled bravery in action. Not a single human panicked, not a single mind faltered. They faced overwhelming odds with composure, adaptability, and courage. Finally, the last ship turned away, engines burning, leaving the settlement untouched. Lyra exhaled deeply, a mixture of relief and amazement washing over her. She had expected chaos, panic, and desperate fighting. Instead, she had seen humans stand united, clever, and fearless, turning the enemy's strength into weakness. Jonah turned to her, calm and steady. "Do you see now? Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act with reason and bravery, even when danger is near. That is why humans endure." Lyra nodded, her mind spinning with understanding. For the first time in her life, she felt a profound sense of belonging. She had spent decades running, hiding, and fighting alone. Now she realized the truth. Courage could be learned, shared, and strengthened by unity. She looked around at the humans who had defended the settlement with such precision and calm. Their bravery was not reckless. It was guided by intelligence, preparation, and a willingness to act for others. It was a courage that inspired rather than intimidated. Lyra felt a transformation within herself. She had been hunted across worlds, relying on fear and survival instincts. But now she understood a new way to live, to face danger without panic, to act with wisdom, and to trust in the strength of others. Jonah placed a hand on her shoulder. "You fought alongside us even in your first battle here. Not because you had to, but because you chose to. That is courage, Lyra. That is humanity." Lyra's lips pressed into a small smile. For the first time, she did not feel hunted, trapped, or isolated. She felt connected, capable, and inspired. She had found a new path, a way to survive and thrive without fear, guided by courage, intelligence, and unity. As night fully descended, the settlement settled into quiet. The humans moved among each other, checking systems, repairing minor damage, and sharing stories of the day's events. Lyra observed quietly, learning the rhythm of this brave community. She realized that courage was not only in battle, it was in daily life, in trust, in patience, and in the willingness to act wisely. Jonah gestured toward the horizon. "The galaxy will keep coming. Challenges will never end. But if we act with courage, strategy, and unity, we can endure anything." Lyra nodded. She thought of all the worlds she had fled, all the hunters who had pursued her, All the moments of fear and desperation, none of it mattered now. Not because the threats were gone, but because she had learned a new kind of strength. She had learned that fear did not have to rule her. Courage, guided by reason and unity, could. She turned to Jonah, her voice firm and certain. I want to stay. I want to learn. I want to fight, not from fear, but from choice. Jonah smiled, approvingly but gently. Then you are already human in heart, Lyra. That is the first step. The rest will come with time, experience, and trust. For the first time in years, Lyra opened her own door, not out of necessity, not out of fear, but out of choice. She stepped fully into the settlement, leaving behind the shadows of her past. She was no longer just a fugitive. She was a part of something greater, a witness to the true strength of humans. Courage without fear, intelligence without arrogance, and unity without hesitation. The stars glittered above Haven 7, reflecting on the calm, resilient faces of its people. Lyra felt a deep sense of peace. She had survived countless hunts, yet here she was, not hiding, not fleeing, not fighting alone. She had found a home, a purpose, and a new understanding of strength. The alien threat might return, but Lyra knew now that it mattered little. Humans did not fear the galaxy. They faced it with calm minds, brave hearts, and the courage to act boldly. And she would stand with them, learning, growing, and living with a strength she had never known before. As the night deepened, Lyra sat beside Jonah, watching the stars. She understood now that courage was not a solitary act. It was shared, nurtured, and amplified by unity. She had faced her first true challenge among humans, and she had survived, not just physically, but spiritually. And for the first time in her life, Lyra Vance felt truly free. The galaxy had many legends, but few were spoken with the same fear and awe as Kalara, the deadliest assassin in existence. Her name alone could stop conversations in the largest space stations, and her face was known only in whispered rumors. Ships that carried her often never returned, and empires paid her price without question. She was precise, merciless, and untouchable. Kalara moved like a shadow through the darkness of space, aboard her sleek, black ship called the Night Viper. Sensors hummed softly as she scanned her latest target, a high-profile diplomat who had angered the wrong people. Kalara did not feel pity or hesitation. Her life was not for attachment. It was for efficiency. Every mission was just another mark on her perfect record. But this time something felt different. The diplomat ship, the Aurelia, was under attack. Not by a rival human faction, but by an alien force Kalara had never seen before. The attackers moved like liquid steel, weaving through space with deadly coordination. Kalara's instincts screamed caution, but the thrill of a challenge stirred her blood. She docked her ship silently onto the Aurelia, shadows hiding her every movement. Her mission was clear: eliminate the diplomat quickly and disappear. But when she entered the command room, she saw chaos. Alien creatures, tall, armored, and moving with sharp precision, were tearing through the crew. The diplomat was cornered, his hands trembling as he tried to fight them off. Kalara's hand rested on her plasma blade. She was ready to strike, ready to finish her mission and leave. But then she saw him. Elias, a human engineer aboard the Aurelia. He had no armor, no weapons, only his courage and quick mind. In a desperate move, he distracted one of the aliens, causing it to falter just long enough for Kalara to strike it down. For a moment, Kalara paused. Humans were not typically clever enough to survive her missions, or survive anything near this level of danger. Yet Elias moved with confidence, dodging attacks, using parts of the ship as weapons and leading the diplomat toward safety. Kalara realized something strange. If she did nothing, the diplomat would die, the aliens would likely follow, and her mission could fail in ways she did not expect. In a rare decision, she stepped fully into the battle, her movements smooth and deadly. Blades flashed and aliens fell one by one. Elias watched her with wide eyes, a mixture of fear and awe. Who are you?" he asked between breaths. Kalara did not answer. Words were unnecessary. Her actions were enough. Together they fought, the human and the assassin, side by side. Despite her reputation for being untouchable, Kalara felt something unfamiliar, a connection, subtle but undeniable. This human was different. As the last alien fell, alarms rang through the ship. The Aurelia was damaged, its engines failing. Kalara glanced at the diplomat, then back at Elias. His quick thinking had saved them both. And now she faced a choice: leave him behind or take him along. "Come with me if you want to live," she said, her voice low but commanding. Elias hesitated only a second before nodding. They raced to the Night Viper. Lyra piloted the ship through debris and alien drones, her focus absolute. Elias helped, guiding her through unexpected hazards, calculating angles and spotting threats she might have missed. She had never met a human with such courage, such resourcefulness. For Lyra, this should have been irrelevant. She should have ignored him, seen him as a liability, but something in her mind, something she could not name, insisted on keeping him alive. Her instincts as a hunter were conflicted with this new, unplanned emotion. Once in open space, away from immediate danger, Lyra finally spoke. "You were reckless. That could have gotten you killed." "I had to try," Elias said, his voice steady despite exhaustion. "You didn't. You could have left us to die." "But you didn't. Why?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes sharp and unreadable. For a long moment she said nothing. No one had ever asked her that question. No one had ever cared. "I don't care for questions," she said finally. Elias smiled faintly. "Fair enough. I'll remember that." Despite her efforts to remain cold, Lyra felt a strange tug. This human, weak by her standards, fragile yet so unafraid, had survived where others would have fallen. And not only survived, he had made her pause, made her hesitate, made her feel something. Lyra piloted the Night Viper toward a distant station, a place off the known trade routes. They needed repairs, rest, and a chance to plan their next move. Elias moved with her silently, his curiosity and intelligence evident in every observation he made. He noticed details she had not even thought about: asteroid patterns, weak points in the station's defense shields, and the subtle way her ship absorbed damage. "You're meticulous," Elias said quietly. "I've never seen anyone work like you. Not even the best engineers I know." Lyra allowed herself a small smirk. "I survive because I am careful. Others survive by luck." "That is the difference," Elias laughed softly. Maybe we both survive because we help each other." Lyra didn't answer. The statement lingered in her mind, though she refused to show it. The station they reached was quiet, almost abandoned, but it offered the shelter they needed. Lyra went to work repairing her ship, her movements precise and controlled, while Elias assisted where he could. Despite her instincts telling her to keep him away, she allowed him near the systems, trusting him in small ways. As the night cycle passed in the station, Lyra studied Elias. Humans were strange creatures, fragile yet brave, small, yet capable of actions that could change the course of battles. And this human, this Elias, had done more than survive. He had changed her perspective in a way no one else ever had. "You're not like the others," she said finally, breaking the silence. "And you're not like the monsters everyone says you are," Elias replied. "I saw it. You saved more lives than you ended today. And you saved me." Lyra looked away, her jaw tight. That word, saved, was dangerous. It implied weakness, attachment, something she had spent her entire life avoiding. But for the first time, she didn't push the thought away. She didn't move to dismiss it. The rest of the station's night passed quietly, but Lyra's mind raced. She thought about the galaxy, about the people she had killed, about the orders she had followed without question. And she thought about this human who had survived because of courage, because of intelligence, because of an unbreakable will. By the time the first light of the station's artificial sun rose, Lyra had made a decision. She would take Elias with her, not because she needed help, her skills were unmatched, but because something inside her told her that leaving him behind would be a mistake. In the cold expanse of space, aboard the Night Viper, two unlikely allies prepared for a journey that would change them both. One was the deadliest killer in the galaxy. The other was a human who had risked everything for courage, hope, and life. And somewhere between fear and survival, something stronger was beginning to grow. Trust, respect, and perhaps even friendship. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But Lyra had faced many dangers before. This time, however, the danger was different. The human she had saved was not just a companion. He was a challenge to everything she believed. And deep down she knew that in saving him, she might have already made herself vulnerable in ways she had never imagined. And for Lyra, vulnerability was a new, strange, and dangerous feeling, one that could change the course of her life forever.